Hey guys, welcome to the Wicked High podcast, where you'll get our curated take on the culture of cannabis.
I'm Jay.
I'm Marissa, and we are
Wicked High.
I love you.
Okay, so I want to introduce the guest for this episode, Collin Palmer from Vessel Life Sciences. Thank you for coming out. Collin actually got stuck in LA this weekend, and we got lucky enough to have him here for an interview. So thanks for spending your Saturday night with us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So Collin, tell us a little bit about Vessel Life Sciences. What makes your company unique in the cannabis space?
Yeah, so Vessel Life Science there's three parts to what we do. We focus on selection of rare and nascent genetics and genomic research, and we also pair that with solventless extraction and brand development in the space that we currently call cannabis in this industry. So we get to pair really distinctively different disciplines together and kind of mix them and create new products and new things that are, in segmentations or different product categories, such as solventless and hash and refined oils with,
Right.
in the solventless realm.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do you have a science background, or how did you get into this?
So I don't have a formal science background, but I got into this in '96. I started growing cannabis and exploring as a younger me. And then in '99, I started extracting cannabinoids from actual plant material after exploring growing for a few seasons. And at that time, it was mainly just outdoor. It was just...
Wow, 3 years in, you started extracting, playing around.
So it really was, I was really just interested in trying to learn more about what I could do with the plant. And I was reading things on forums like the BCGA, the British Columbia Growers Association, and there were people like Vic High and all these, old timer, all these guys were giving information out and talking about the plant and how to express the best out of the plant through feeding schedules and all these other things. And then I found this one little post where they started talking about hash, and I just started getting really into it from that point on. And I met people like Marcus Richardson, who is known as Bubble Man in this industry, and we started exchanging ideas and information from one another, and he started inspiring me, and I think eventually it started to become an exchange. So awesome. We started to just kind of explore these really difficult resins to extract off these plants at the time, because there really wasn't. Today we have a lot of contemporary varietals to extract cannabinoids from. At that time we had maybe like 3.
Right.
I had maybe 1 for like years.
Really quick, not to break the conversation too much, but for our viewers who aren't necessarily super familiar with cannabis, could you explain to them what the solvent is and what exactly kind of you mean in terms of your process, solventless?
So solvents are typically known as an ethanol, a chemical such as butane, or things of that nature that are actually they're using a chemical to strip the actual oils from the plant, essentially in a vat of acid, and then doing what's a winterization process, separating the fats from that, filtering that, and then doing a rotovape or centrifuge or whatever. So with solventless, we're using water, which is technically a solvent in a chemical in science. And I hear you hash heads out there, but let's be real. It's acting as a carrier, and it's just taking and stripping these chemicals, and cannabis really resin is hydrophobic in nature, so it's really carrying through this water as a carrier, and then we're selectively pulling it through different micron screens. And those micron screens are pulling a different grade of hash based on the variety and the size of trichome heads that it grows. There's capitate sessile, there's sessile. It's really important to have the right size trichome heads, and that's what I see a lot of individuals today finally getting interested in and breeding for or growing for them and selecting towards them.
Right.
It's never been really thought about in this way until really the last few years. So at least at scale, there was a small group of us that were very keen to this, but it took a long time. Solventless was not popular for a very long time. Like nobody wanted our water hash for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Why do you think that is?
I think it's difficult to consume and like convenience factor. I think that you have people that are, hash has these different flavors and,
Right.
and flour is very different. You have mono and sesquiterpenes that are present in modern hash, and you have predominantly, sesquiterpenes that are, predominantly, coming from flour. So you have people that are just not used to these flavors and the use case. So I think with the advent of technology, which is delivery and people like Puffco and Pax and all these other companies have made it easier to use these types of products, but it's still today we're working towards convenience, and people are just human, right? They just want convenience at the end of the day. They're not so that's really the main thing. So I think, and also it was, look, you have to understand that there was no yield. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier. You weren't getting much yield from these processing techniques. So we were kind of, meaning this category was kind of pushed to the side, and everyone said it'll never work. And I think a few of us said, no, I think it can.
Yeah.
And push forward, and meeting people like Ben Britton over at Pure Pressure and working with them to develop, my dream setup, through his engineering and his talents. It's been great. So it allows us to kind of take what we've done in a bedroom. It's kind of like music. It's like bedroom producers to a studio to a stage to distro.
Right.
So I since I come from that world, the music world, it's very relatable to me. And it's process, right? Like music's process,
Yeah.
And to me, hash making's process. So it was really hand in hand for me. So that's why as long as I'd been doing all of this other stuff, I'd always grown cannabis and extracted cannabinoids. And it just grew as this stage of a industry, if you will, as I call it, grew.
All right, so on this episode's segment of You're Not Going to Believe This, we have a question about cannabinoids.
So, Colin, we were just discussing cannabinoid extraction, and I was curious what discovered, because we know that there's so many more that are going to be discovered, but what currently discovered cannabinoid gets you the most excited, and why?
I think, well, I believe that the THCP is the most interesting to me, because there's clearly varietals that are not testing very high that cause very psychoactive experiences, and I think that is a contributing factor, as well as a few other nascent chemicals that are basically hydrocarbon based, which are the terpenoids, the terpene category. I think that the thiols that create the gas, and the kind of the varieties that are like of DOGs and sours, and those sulfur-based compounds, I think they contribute together to a really robust experience, and that ensemble effect, as we love to call it. And I think that's the most interesting right now. But you have to. The thing about that THCP is that we've only really been able to really synthesize it, which is really not recreate it from the plant. I'd love to see a geneticist or a team of people come together, find these genetic markers, exploit them, and see what we can actually discover, to pull out these expressions and these really small contributing chemicals that make huge broad strokes and the world of difference, and change the actual experience. And the reason why you may love California orange versus a super lemon haze or a lemon cake or sour diesel, and so on and so forth. So I think that together, with the exploratory factor of the terpenoids, I think that's the most exciting thing.
That's super exciting. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down for us. And I have one other question for you. You mentioned people not really believing in solventless extraction back in the day, and I feel like the current state of the market, I feel like people wear it as like a badge of honor. I feel like when you practice solventless extraction, people are like, yeah, super proud, right? So is it
Yeah.
interesting to see that change and that evolution
Yeah.
from where it started?
Well, I think it's exciting and interesting because the younger me pinches the older me and says, "See, man, like you guys, you just kept believing in the thing." And I think I just believe that it's inspired a lot of people to also take on that same craft, because it still is a craft. It's like picking up a guitar. Go buy the press, go buy the thing, but at the end of the day, you have to learn how to play. You have to learn inversions and chords and harmonics and all this stuff that makes it your voice and who you are. And I think that's why extraction and exploring cannabinoids in general and to create products, if you will, is super fun. It's just like music. You're pulling things together.
I love your passion.
And you just kind of throw it together, and you sometimes you can royally fail and make like crazy bad mixes and bad hash, and you can or you can make beautiful things, and through these accidents you learn how to make better. And it's not about huge steps. I never in this realm of things. It's more about incremental steps for me, and pushing those incremental steps, and then also questioning them along the way, because it's easy to be like, I just made white hash and it looks great, but like, how does it burn? Like, get in there with a microscope, look at the impurities, try to like just break it apart and analyze all of that, and because it makes you better for it is what I'm trying to say.
And it all affects how the user feels when they have the product. I think that's a common misconception with people who aren't familiar, obviously, with the industry in general, or don't smoke. They think there's like two types of weed, everything's the same. But there's so much more to it, and even further when you get into the oils and all of the individual.
And I'm excited with this podcast to get talking more about terpenes, less about THC, different cannabinoids. We've got to kind of shift the focus. It's going to take a little bit, but we're getting there.
Yeah, I think people are interested, though. It's like you wouldn't go into a wine store and be like, "Give me your 100 proof wine."
Exactly.
They'd be like,
Same
"The
alcohol,
Everclear
yeah.
section's
I was just
like
gonna
way
use
over
that.
there.
Yeah.
Go grab it." But if you want, all these different producers in different regions, if you will, in the terroir of those regions.
Yeah.
Like Northern California has a region. Like California has separate regions, within the state, and every state has its own terroir.
Definitely.
And the resin's different. You can definitely, as an extractor, I have the pleasure of working in different environments, and you notice a total difference.
Have you seen anything in Puerto Rico? Personally, I've heard really cool things about their terroir and some of the growing out there. I haven't experienced it for myself, though.
So that's a really diverse place. It's got a lot. It's got jungle. It's got
microclimates,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, in the right microclimate there, absolutely, it can be incredible. They've got kind of mountainous
That mountainous region, yeah.
and then they also have this the desert-esque, and then so there's a lot of opportunity there to do a lot of interesting stuff. There's growing in the Caribbean in that climate is actually really difficult.
Right.
It takes a lot of.
Is that for mold reasons and bugs and mold, basically?
Yeah, like terciopeias and snakes, and
Yeah.
I mean, just working in those environments
Yeah,
in general are just tough. So it with that comes, then you have the weather, you have other things that are contributing sometimes. That
Definitely.
but it's super cool. It's great. Yeah, there's some really cool, talented people down there for sure.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Colin, so I hear you have some cool new projects coming up. Is there anything you can share with our audience?
Earlier this year, Pax Labs had reached out to me and asked to join them to develop a solventless project, or solventless pod with them, and to.
Sorry to interrupt. Is that their first solventless pod, or had they produced those before?
So this is the first time Pax has ever put their name behind a product and said, "Hey, this is Pax. This is made by Pax."
Oh, that's exciting.
So I think it's really great for them, for a number of reasons. The first reason is because I know that they have a toxicologist on hand, and they've spent a ton of time and a ton of energy researching toxicology. And the thing I think is important to talk about is that the cannabis plant is generally benign, and through extraction and through these processing techniques, we've kind of like inched this thing away from that into more of a chemical inducing substance through vape carts and technology and things that we, quite frankly, are just wrong for the type of oil that we're making here. And inadvertently, you have things that are off-gassing and creating other chemicals that are harming you. And I think what I understand today is that PAX is spending a ton of time running toxicology studies and working really hard with their in-house team to really select the components so they aren't toxic.
Really doing their due diligence.
They're doing their job, and I think that's really inspiring and what got me got me excited. Excuse me.
Drink some Liquid Death.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Liquid Death. Just kidding.
No, if you want to sponsor us, give us a shout.
So PAX, really has taken a toxicology approach to their products in their product development. So what I did was I took the 2 decades of exploratory hash making that I've done and paired that with their technology and developed with them a brand new category in solventless that is I'm really proud of. I think that the support that they've given and the team that they've built around this thing has been really great. And I, as a hash maker and as an artist, they've given me a lot of freedom. So it's been a lot of fun working with them and being a part of the team with them. It's been cool.
I love that you're so creative.
Thank you.
I never knew that side of you. Sorry, I just had to say
That and passionate, your passion
Yeah.
and also your knowledge, your knowledge of the plant inside out is next level, and it's really inspiring. So we super appreciate your time coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Do you want to try the PAX thing? Because we'll
yeah.
wait to release it anyway. So let's smoke it.
Yeah, sure. So this is the new 1 gram from PAX. It's a ceramic coil, and it's a full flavor experience. It's just kind of designed to be a pocket dab. So you can try that one there.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then so this is rosin with
It's clean. Can you share what they are?
so this is a Jack Herrera.
Okay.
And I believe that is a guava.
I just tried the guava. It's really
Guava
clean.
gelato.
I'm about to try the Jack Herrera.
Yeah, it truly tastes so light and airy. And I am so excited to have a new PAX pod. I actually have stopped using my PAX because I didn't like the flavors and I would go through them really quick because most of them aren't full grams either. And I just think, I don't know, I'm a pothead.
Yeah, the full gram's really nice. I think they've, the team's done a great job. I mean, it's really great. We have the half gram as well. There's going to be there'll be a half gram release with that. So there's 11 flavors across the board that are coming out across a half gram and full gram. So really excited. Lemon cake is a really good one. Super nice and lemony and forward, and yeah, they all have a distinct different style, but they're all really smooth and they have a nice enjoyable feeling to them. So that's I really pressure tested all of this pretty deeply. I'm just such a perfectionist when it comes to flavor so I was really tweaking the process all along the way to kind of get this thing to where it needs to be. And then we built an incredible lab to kind of up the throughput and the output for this, so we could actually make it affordable. It's a constant. That's the thing that I kind of love about it, is you're constantly problem solving, even though you're I know this process, but there's just this constant chasing of something, all the time.
You can tell the time you put into that, though. I mean, you are always commenting on the flavor of vape and just oil cartridges.
It's huge for me.
Right.
Because she loves her vapes. And so sometimes when we're out, I'm not really a vapor, but when we're out, I'll sometimes hit her vapes. And I'm always either like,
hopefully
oh,
this will be your
I'm
new-
surprised by this one, or
Yeah,
I'm
start
like,
getting-
this is trash.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's cool to see how many people are exploring what their voice is in this kind of in the cannabis world, especially with vape and their packaging and what carts they choose and the batteries. You know.
It makes it, talk about accessibility, so much more accessible too for people who maybe like to smoke weed, but you don't want to necessarily buy flower and roll it, or have to like sit and smoke outside an actual pre-roll or something, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, I mean that's where the solventless vape to me, the portable vape, came from to me because I was in New York a lot working
Right.
in studios where I needed portability. I couldn't bring a rig with blowtorches out all the time.
Right.
It just, I don't know. They're like,
Do you want a nail?
you know what I mean? They're like, what's up with this guy and his blow? I'm like, hold on, guy. You know what I mean? They're just like,
First time I saw one of those, I was like, holy, what is
What is going on? That's
I mean, I love my rigs. I mean, they are really efficient and they're beautiful, and I love the class art. I think, you know, there's a lot of great artists out there that are doing some dope work.
definitely.
You know, shout out to Mothership.
And one more question for you. What is your favorite part of the cannabis culture?
Diversity. That's my favorite part about it, is that you know, there was a time where, you know, it was very pigeonholed into like this idea of what it was, and cannabis is many things. It's many people. It's many places. It's like passion becomes a ritual. Ritual becomes like a religion, right, or a community, if you will. And that's where I think it all kind of comes together in community. And that diversity is, I think, which is it's super cool, because I go to these events sometimes and I just see like this. It's just a spread, man. You know what I mean? And it's cool because we need to embrace that, you know, because that's kind of who we actually are. We can push, like for a while we were like, we can't let the Suits and Chads and Brads in this, but
Now we have Chad and Brad NFTs.
yeah, exactly. And the fact of the matter is, some of those guys are helping people like myself become better artists, because I can, and not all the time, I want to say that, not all the time, but in some cases, some of these individuals that have different skill sets that are not my skill sets help me be better at what I do, you know, and it's hard to recognize that sometimes, you know, it truly is.
Diversity is a great answer, and I agree.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's like it's cool because like you know, from the music side of things, it's like the breeders and the hash makers are like the beat makers, you know, like they're like the bedroom heads that were like, I know what my kick drums sound like and my synths and my bass lines, and you know, then the growers are just a different subset, you know, like it's a different way of looking at all of this, but it's just how I view it, you know.
Well, yeah, and actually, let our listeners know where you live, because I guess we didn't introduce that you're coming from the East Coast.
Yeah, so I started, you know, growing a lot of cannabis on the East Coast. So I'm an East Coast, really native, and spent a lot of time on the West Coast, of course, through the 2000s, and you know, New York was a home for a really long time. Now Massachusetts has been a home for a little while now. I built a grow up there, and then now California has been kind of home for the past year.
And shout out to Massachusetts, because Julie's from Massachusetts as well, and I'm from New Hampshire, so that's why we have Wicked High.
Exactly. Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, and you know, the cultures are just distinctively different. You know, the things that we look for in cannabis are different on the East Coast, but what's cool is that's the diversity, right? You know, it's there's a lot of talent in all of these places. You know, people know what they like, you know.
There's also a lot of Chad energy in New York. So you have to like fight them, especially now with legalization and stuff.
So for people that are listening to the podcast and not watching, Julie was just shadow boxing for a second.
Yeah, and I think it's like either we argue or you start to communicate on more of like a stoner level. And I think that's what's so dope about stoners, right? Is they can do that. And that's the diversity thing again. Okay, it's time for Jays with Jay, where we're going to light up a pre-roll, and Collin is going to tell us about the first time he ever got high.
First time I got high. Wow. All right. So yeah, I remember it.
So
Yeah.
break it down for us.
So,
Give us
okay.
a little description. How
So-
old were you? Who were you with? What were you doing? What did you smoke? How did you smoke it?
Okay, so I was in middle school, and I was in 6th grade, and I have 2 older brothers that we all were really into skateboarding and like just really into, we were like, oh man, there's those kids again. You know what I mean?
And this is New York?
This is out in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is outside Philly, and we. I remember leaving school. It was leaving sixth grade, and the buses were all lined up, and across the street was like this like wooded area, and like all the other skate kids, when all these other kids would hang out over there. And my brothers were over there, and so one day I had my board after school, and I just skated across, and like the buses left, and everybody's hanging, and then someone just like pulls out like basically some like Colombian swag, all seated out, and they're like, yo, you guys wanna smoke some weed,
Dry.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, you're in sixth grade.
I mean, if you got your hands on weed in 6th grade.
So, well, it was like it was also like the eighth graders and stuff at the time. My brothers were there, and Brad was in, I guess, 9th or 10th grade, and my other brother was older than that at that time, probably in college. So they rolled up this joint, and then I remember the Coke can getting crushed. So I was like, what is going on? It was all, and then someone's like, getting a stick, and they're like poking little holes in the middle of it.
Smoking out of a can.
Yeah, and then exactly, and then the tin can bowl starts to get passed around, and then I remember getting the joint first comes around, and then this freaking thing, and I'm like, I don't even know how to hit it, like I'm just like, like I'll just not even, just have no idea, and then
I love it.
I remember not feeling super high. That's the thing I distinctively felt. But looking back and thinking about it, I just don't think I understood how to feel. So I don't think I was able to actually connect with it.
I also feel like there's a lot of fear the first time you smoke, so you're like overanalyzing everything rather than letting it go, and then by the
sense of
time,
place.
second, third times you're
Yeah.
smoking, you're like, oh, okay, like
Totally. Yeah.
maybe. Who knows? It's not
All right, well, Collin, this was amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
We're
We're
so excited to
definitely,
have you
we would
here.
love to have you back a second time next time you're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Or if we're ever on the East Coast,
Yeah.
we'll make it happen. I heard you have a podcast studio in your basement. Is that
There's
true?
a studio
We're on the
attached.
street. A little bird might have
There's
told
a
me.
studio attached.
Why did it sound creepy? I heard you have a podcast in your
There's a creep-
basement.
there's a creep. There's lights down there too. No, but yeah, I have it's a music studio really. Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like it's all my stuff it's a full studio. It's like,
Love it.
yeah.
Yeah, well, we've been friends. I look forward to
Yeah.
continuing the friendship, and
on, thank
yeah, we'd love to have you back anytime. And
Thanks for having me.
congratulations. on
Yeah,
that.
congrats. I'm so excited
Yeah,
to get
very
these
excited.
spots.
I also just want to say thanks to PAX for including me on their journey as they grow as a company, and Solventless is a passion of mine, and I'm thankful for the stage, if you know.
For sure. Shout out to PAX.
Hell yeah.